Hello everyone, how you doing today? Thought I would just kind of show you what I've been working on a little bit and apologize for no video Monday. I've been kind of busy, but I'm also really getting slammed with allergies at the moment, and I'm going in these sneezing fits all the time and kind of congested right now. Um, I don't normally take allergy medicine for it because it usually makes it worse. I'll feel a little better, but then get really congested from taking those, so I just been kind of avoiding that at the moment. But it happens to me every year about this time. Something comes out in the air where I live, and it messes with me pretty bad. It usually goes away after a couple weeks, but anyway, just thought I would show you a bunch of stuff and show you some design ideas, but I want to show you something that I have just about completed at this point in time, and this is the new version of that TIE fighter kind of thing for Skaar. I don't have a name for this yet. Don't know what to call it. I keep on wanting to call it Interceptor, but yeah, you know, get a little throwback to a TIE Interceptor. But what this thing is basically that first version just redone. So it's completely rebuilt from ground up. I gave up the idea of trying to make this a tier 3, and I put back in the mining on this to have that, but it's kind of like a dual purpose ship. It is a gunship miner, tier 4. Struggling a little too bad with what I wanted to do with it at tier 3, and I wanted to get the shape more defined and some different things going on with it. Yeah, I think this might be kind of fun. It's of course you can do your mining and you can turn these on or off, but you also have 6 Gatling guns, 4 homing rocket launchers. Could have either homing or regular. I guess it doesn't really matter. And then you have 6 Gatling guns on all sides of it. Now, one thing on the last video too, I was all like, "Hey, I want to retract these lower Gatling guns when it lands." Well, it didn't even dawn on me at the time that the SV turrets, the only turret available, have no retractable options, so you can't retract them. So that kind of rules that out. But then I realized if they're not retracted, the thing lands just fine anyway, so it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of weird. But yeah, so if you're out mining, this thing should be able to defend itself from normal attacks pretty easily with all the turrets all over the place. All of them are able to fire forward when you're attacking things, so the 2 on the bottom, the 2 on top, and then 1 on each side. I think this will work out pretty good. Now on the inside, which is getting there, I'm going to probably try to get a little bit more detail into here, and obviously I'm missing LCDs and could stand some more switches maybe. Let's see what we got here. For harvest storage, it has 23,000, and then ammo storage 5,500. So it's pretty good for that. You can carry a lot of stuff. It has all your features in here right now. It's a little, I still might try to rework this a little bit. I'm trying to keep all the critical parts visible, such as your CPU core blocks. So you got the 4 of those. There's 2 up there and 1 on each side. It's got a warp drive, and that's I left it so you can kind of see it from inside, but also keep you away from it. You have a taxi tank, Wi-Fi, detector. Oh, I have 2 O2s in here. That's not good. One of those was supposed to be an armor locker, and this armor locker is supposed to move. See, these are some things I gotta just work out a little bit. This thing flies really good right now. I gotta test it in survival, but doesn't have the roll. But I keep on thinking, do you need a lot of roll with these? I guess it has some roll. I mean, it's just not super rolly, which is good, but it is pretty maneuverable. You can take pretty quick angles, line line up pretty good. So if you were attacking POIs, I think this could work out pretty good. The thrust is weighted, you know, so it's got a lot of lift thrust, but it's balanced on most other directions, except of course moving forward is a little bit quicker as well. So that's kind of where I'm at this time here. Let me just land this again here. There we go. Yeah, it does land actually pretty good. And I'm using all these little thrusters because just trying to fit in the bigger thrusters in this design was not working out. It looked really funky, and probably be more efficient with less but bigger thrusters. But excuse me. Other than that, there's that. Now, this one's also just about ready too, and this, of course, has been ready for a while. So this weekend I'll release one of these. This one's probably the oldest and most overdue to be released, so maybe I should just get this one out, and then got these other two guys for another time. The butterfly ship, I was just trying to figure out, you know, and even like I said before, I'm not sure I want to continue with this design or not. I was just evaluating how it's going to work out, so I was kind of trying to plan out where the usable interior space on this is, and I can't go any farther in these directions because there's going to be hot thrusters there, and I got to kind of shield them off with all these walls. So it would have some interior space, really low ceilings on this one, so it's not going to give you much wiggle room up there. Also, I think I'd probably want to get a drone hatch in here too, so I'd have to manipulate this area as well. But overall, it can work. It's just what I really worry about on a design like this is a lot of wasted space. And the problem I've got right now is I'm cutting in so much with these thrusters into the interior area that it could have a lot more room inside if it was reconfigured differently. But that's part of the aesthetics of it, is having these like angled thrusters in there in the first place. So I'm just trying to kind of weigh how usable of a SV kind of fighter would this be. You know, looks aside, is it going to work all right? And I don't think it's tough enough to be like a gunship, and it's not a miner, and so I'm just trying to figure out where it should fit in the grand scheme of things. Again, it was planning to have 6 turrets, and then of course rocket launchers, and right now it has the 4 miniguns on it, or Gatling guns. So yeah, this one just kind of, I'm still on the fence with it. I'm not sure, but what I did want to do is show you some methods that I've been working out on trying to like build new SVs and stuff too. And first, it's coming up with an idea of a shape and kind of your head, and then kind of like mapping that shape out with just blocks. Like this one here is like a very typical kind of fighter thing, and I was thinking of a lower level, like maybe a tier 2 SV, general purpose, you know, some combat maybe, and some storage and a little bit of everything, but cheap and kind of low unlock levels and things like that. This one over here, I was kind of plotting out a general concept of where this would be a kind of an angular frame that kind of goes up and angles out over here. I would have an internal cockpit that would be in this location, and then you got these big kind of support wings that would kind of come down, which would hold a lot of thrusters and parts and guns and things like that. Just another idea, but I mean, literally, it only takes a few minutes to plot something like this out and see if your design's gonna, if you like it after you kind of get it into the 3D world. And if you do like it, then you start refining it. Same idea over here. This was for potential another design idea of a SV miner, and I keep on trying to, you know, determine what base material I want these to be too. Like this is of hardened steel and regular steel over here on the cheaper one. Differences is hit points. Would this work out okay? Are the mining drills spaced out decent enough? Things like that. Do I need another one? The problem with the TIE Fighter one over here is it's tier 4. And I know you can do a miner at tier 2, which would be a lot more accessible in game and cheaper. So this one could be a miner as well, and the idea of this one, of rather than having the mining drills around the cockpit, that they would be out over here on the wings. So it'd kind of be like a row of them, so you would cut kind of a different, wider, smaller shape into what you're mining. Will that work out? Maybe. Now this over here is a fully functional craft as well, and this is also testing a like a tier 2 SV miner. Just I don't think this one has a real block on it right now. It's all cargo extensions and parts. This works. So it'd be in effect, if it had a skin over the rest of it, it would probably work, and it would actually have a little interior space as well. But I mean, things like this, again, it looks like one of those ground miners, and aesthetically looking at it, of course it could be prettier, once you get some blocks around all this stuff and whatnot. But gosh, I don't know. I mean, it's like I didn't want to build another ship that looked like another traditional miner, especially one that flies, and it's totally not aerodynamic. So these are all the kind of things I'm thinking about. Like what works in game and what looks good can be two different things a lot of times. This works quite well. For its price, I don't think I could make it cheaper with its capability, especially with no actual blocks or anything on it. Speaking of cheapness, but it's still more expensive than I would have liked it to be. Now, keep in mind, these rare resources are all about those mining T2 lasers. Other than that, this thing's really quite cheap, and because it's built of, well, yeah, I don't know. What did I get on this? 12,000 storage, and this also, just checking here again, this was a tier 2, and it's actually quite a bit under where it could be right now for a tier 2. So yeah, just all kinds of little ideas and things like that on what do I really want to work out for for the SVs for the Skaar. Again, I could keep on chugging away at this one and get this finished up. I just don't know how useful it's going to be in the end, and I have a feeling, and looking at it, it would be another tier 4, but it's not going to be a maxed out tier 4, so it's not going to be like a hardened gunship at tier 4. It's kind of this in-between ship that isn't really well, it's not utilizing all the CPU at tier 4, but also can't work at tier 3. So it's where I kind of run into problems on some of these. They got to kind of work in game. This one, again, I just bit the bullet on it, and I just said, hey, you know what, I can't do what I'm trying to do here at tier 3. It needs to be tier 4, otherwise I'm just not going to like it. It's not going to fulfill what it was meant to do in the first place. Now, I could remove the miners from this again, but it's still a tier 4. So I'm like, well, why not have the mining on here then? That gives it a lot more functionality. So stuff like that. But anyway, let's thought I'd just do a little bit here on this and show you on this one here, after I kind of lay out a base wireframe. And keep in mind when I'm doing this that I'm always trying to use angles that are in the game. So that's why it's only going to a 22.5 degree angle here when I'm setting these blocks out, 22.5 here, and then 45. So that's all it uses. So then I know I can make all this work. If I were to say make this 3, it would go down 3 and then drop down 1, then the blocks can't make that work right. So here, let's say I wanted to start a refining process. Say I like the general design of this here. So just get on some symmetry for now. So what I usually would start doing is, let's say, let's start refining these angles off. And I have choices. And that's great about the angles, is that we can use a set of these guys here, which will work, and you'd get that angle. I'll just put in a couple of these to show you. So like this here, one option. Or could go over to the first set here in the basic shapes and run these guys here. I usually start with this third one because it's the first one that reaches. Oh, never mind. Ah, now I forgot how to. Oh my god. Hey guys, I have no idea how to rotate a block. I have no idea what I'm doing. Jesus. I don't think I'm thinking clearly either. Okay, well anyway, let's just run with this since I already made a fool of myself here. So this is what I actually kind of meant to do. So then there's this other angle here. So we'll be determining what angle looks better, or if I'm going to use those angles in more than one way, or double them up. What I mean by doubling up, here, let's pull this out again. And this is what's nice about building these kind of frames like this, is you can mess around with these options and get things how you want it, and you know it's going to work before you even bother trying to put in all the, you know, tougher blocks to put in, I guess. So we'll go back to the original one here. Now this would give me the option, if I wanted to do a dual angle and thicken this up using both of these sets. So we could go like this. So then you've got one angle, second angle. If you're really crazy, you could do this with a third angle on the side too. But I'm kind of getting away from the original design I was thinking if I did that. But what I mean by the third angle is, first you gotta level this off, because it's missing a couple parts to make this thin on this one. And I'll try to show you what I'm talking about. Alright. So we did that, and then down over here we can again swing back to the same angle that we're using on the top, but only at a different here. I don't know, brain fart. I've been having brain farts a lot lately. I don't know what it is. Okay, there we go. So we could do that, and this, and a couple of those in there. And then you can get that third angle, which I do kind of like. Obviously, from going from this really quick to build blocky frame to this, really isn't that hard to do. It's usually a pretty quick process, and it's a nice method to build a body, you know, especially for larger crafts. For really small stuff, it doesn't work out near as well. But for big stuff, you can, you know, adjust it very easily to try to get all your dimensions right before you get too heavily involved in it, and it's quick to do, because I mean, obviously laying out full blocks like this is very fast. You don't, you know, in comparison, it's like drawing 3D lines, and then once you like all your lines, then you can go through and do something like this and refine it all. And that's where things get kind of fun. Speaking of this, now this could be a dilemma here too, because I've got all these different angles coming in this same spot, which could make it rough. I know there's no, there actually is a block that fits that too. But what would I do in the corner here to make this really right? I think that shape here, with a couple of these at different angles, would take this, both of these, and allow you to merge those angles all together like that in a nice smooth way. If you follow through on this one more time, you can really get a nice curve there. So in some regards, yes, I do like this. This would be a big ship. This would be an experiment again, almost getting up to the size of the MX-12 to 18 size Merc ships. Just larger. If anything, this would be like the heavy fighter. You know, the shielded, crazy, maxed out T4 kind of gunship kind of thing. Of course, when you get these bigger ships like this, the hard part is to make them fly and be maneuverable nicely, because once you get, I mean, the amount of blocks that would be on a ship like this are pretty crazy. So therefore it's going to be very heavy, it's going to be expensive, but it would have a lot of room inside it, you know, if you could utilize the room for something worthwhile, I guess. Now, of course, a lot of thrusters would have to go on here too, and that's something you got to look at on all these ships. Like this little guy over here, the debate was to have an interior at all, or just kind of leave it where you cram in a bunch of parts in here and maybe give yourself some access out the back or something like that. Now, I kind of designed this so, leaving that 3 blocks wide on the back, I could get a regular door in here, decent enough, so it could have an interior. Now, interior is going to waste potential room on a ship, but also, I think, make the ship kind of more... I prefer interiors, put it that way, but I prefer, for strength, regular cockpits over the glass, because I still got the problem with, you know, when you have a glass front window, it's too weak. If you double up the glass, your visibility sucks. If you're flying in first person, and or if you don't have a cockpit at all, then obviously you gotta only fly in third person, which I don't like to do. I'll do it on a tank, but I don't really like to do it on much of anything else, because I like to fly in first person. So on this one here, now this is you know, another method too, where if you're using a prefab cockpit, what I usually like to do is mimic the block work around the cockpit to create the blocks to work around it right. So for instance, let's say we got rid of that cockpit and we put in like another one here, like this one over here. So my first thing on a cockpit like this would be, I want to make my blocks around the sides work with what's there. So here, let's change the symmetry line to this one a second. And okay, so how do we want to do this? Now, right now, if I just went with these traditional angles here, that would line up perfectly to this cockpit, like that. Then you got to figure out what you want to do on the sides here. And we got the front area to deal with, though. Could do the same thing. And we're going to get that kind of standard wedge pattern. This is where it gets a little tricky. Do you want the same angle there? I kind of do in this case, so never mind. Not tricky. And let's see, but over on the sides over here, do I really want it to be like it is, or could we start curving that in. The whole point of that was to blend in whatever kind of cockpit you're using, so all your polygons line up right. Like for instance, one more attempt here. Let's go to a different design yet. Here's one I haven't used in a very long time. This used to be my cockpit of choice, by the way, and then I sort of abandoned that, or just haven't been using or building many ships with the cockpits to start with. So, you know what though, this one I want to lower down a block if I place it. Yeah, I know this. That looks totally funky, doesn't it? So let's get rid of that. Hold on. Okay, so say we had this one something like that. Each time you run a different cockpit, you can really manipulate the looks of your craft. You know what? I still want that one up another point farther. So it's like that. Okay. And we'll match the angles here. It's a little tricky at the edges there. So this would be basically another option on what you could do, you know, and how you want the cockpit design to look on this. It's all in personal preference, but yeah, if I'm using prefab cockpits, I do something like this almost every time. Just always make the blocks match the cockpit. You can have a little bit of fun with that, but it's like these angles here. If you're trying to run a block, it's pretty much always got to be that block on a lot of these. Like over here, this is a different scenario in which it's different kind of cockpit and it's all squarish along the side. So something like this, I look at it as more of an industrial, not as aerodynamic of a cockpit. So I might be prone to do other things with it. Like in this case, maybe let's move the symmetry over to this one now. Say, could put in some weird things like run a little strip of this stuff along the sides here. Oh no, brain fart again. Okay, there we go. Oh. And I'm not sure on this one. I almost want it angled. Maybe something like that. You know, just different ideas. So curious, couple questions for you guys. Names. Got any ideas for names for the? Obviously, I'm calling it a TIE Fighter right now. I don't want to call it TIE Fighter, obviously. Skaar something or other. And then I've got this miner over here. Don't know what to call that. Got this guy here. I was calling it runner until I used runner for the this over here, or sky runner. So yeah, I got all three of these that all could use some names, and they're just about all ready. These two are lacking LCD, so, and a little bit of interior on that one. Same with this. Just a quick rework on, or not rework, but look at things again and detail stuff. And of these designs over here, do you like any of them? at least in loose concepts. Do you think there's any need for a big SV? That would be expensive and along the lines of the higher end mercs that I'll try to make work again in, the official version of the game now. And I think I could, building them from ground up. The problem I've got with the existing big mercs is they weren't designed for any of it, and it's killer on CPU and thruster placement and all kinds of other things that really mess with them, making it kind of a nightmare to fix them. But a larger craft like this, I think, could work again with the CPU that's there, providing is running the right amount of thrusters in the right places and all that kind of fun stuff. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to show you today. Just some loose stuff. Oh, and on the POI too, I have done more work on this. Last time I was working on this this outside area, I still didn't get any LCDs in here. I'll probably do a bunch of LCD work all at once when I get to it. A bunch of stuff needs it, but I started getting this area set up. Now the idea is kind of some more little shops, like could be again a little shop over here, or some other stuff, a shop here. Now one thing I wanted to do with the inside of this, though, is I really want the player, when you're engaging this POI, to start at the ground floor and then work your way up. But one thing I'm trying to do is I didn't want to run like a big elevator system in it. So I'm trying to do things via stairs. And yeah, it would need a lot of stairs to get to the top for sure. So there's a lot of unfinished area here, but this goes out to the hangar and where I got the temporary parts at right now. So at the ground floor, you start there, you go up a staircase here, just wraps around, goes up another staircase, and then I got to figure out how I'm gonna try to run this part. And it actually kind of goes down a little bit again, and then over here, this room here goes to where I want the leader, basically the commander's room of who's ever in control of this place. So they could walk out to this balcony over here and talk to a crowd of people preaching whatever they're preaching. And and then on this side over here again, I got to figure out a interesting way to get a staircase going all the way up to the next floor here. And then obviously there's quite a few more floors above that. Now, beyond staircase, there's also ladders now. So I'm not forgetting about ladders, and that might be part of it as well. The ladders are easier. They would work about the same as an elevator, just going straight up. Take up a lot less space, but I'm not so worried about the space really. And basically, yeah, once you get all the way up to the top, eventually you could probably get out here. The idea was to make a platform and some kind of rig to get you up to this area, and then finally to a room that's planned to be built here that would contain some extra loot. But the actual core would be somewhere up in this top layer here, and I'm going to try to make it quite fortified so you can't blow it up easily from shooting at the structure from the outside. Of course, with enough ammunition, you could, anywhere you put the core, you could blow it away. Unless, of course, you used this with the admin core. Now, when POIs, there's two different cores that you can put in. Obviously, there's the standard POI core, and then there's the admin core, or what do they call that? Now, the admin core, the difference is it doesn't allow you to destroy the POI stock. However, if you want certain blocks to be able to be damaged, you literally take a multi-tool on it and start damaging them a little bit yourself. Like, say for instance, I wanted you to be able to destroy this block here. So if I just touch that, well, I didn't mean to hurt it that badly, but now this block is destroyable in the game if you had admin core. If it wasn't touched at all, it's not destroyable. So you can literally control exactly what blocks or anything you want on that POI to be able to be destroyed or not destroyed, which gives you a lot of control on it. Problem is I still mostly like the idea of anything is destroyable because it's kind of frustrating if I wanted, if I was in the mood and I just wanted like, oh, screw this, I'm going to blast a hole through the wall here and spend a bunch of, waste a lot of ammunition. I can do that, and I hate it, when you start shooting at something that's like, oh, it's not doing anything to it at all. But you have the option to do both. Now, if you're going to do a dungeon where the whole intent was for a player to be inside it, shooting the bad guys and everything, and you didn't want it all compromised, you would probably want to use an admin core. Otherwise, if you had a bunch of turrets on the outside and you have to take all those most of those turrets down before you can safely get in the inside might be all screwed up. You might have had something planned out, or certain triggers or switches or whatever going on, and they're destroyed, and then the thing doesn't work anymore. That's a big problem as well. Now, also, too, it was brought up on turret placement on this one that, I'd probably want some turrets, covering the ground, and some vertical turrets and things like that. And it's like, yeah, it depends. I guess the way I look at it on POIs, what do you want the POI to be? What is your gameplay factor on it? If it's a heavily defended base with a lot of turrets on it, then it's going to be all about, your HV or SV combat, trying to take out the turrets. And you're going to probably, unless of course using an admin core, going to probably destroy a lot of the POI in the process. Or there's the other idea of a POI, where this one doesn't have as many turrets. It still has some, and it should, be able to shoot you from most angles. I agree, though, that if you're maybe coming down from the top of it, it won't be that bad shooting you. But, I don't want to make this I kind of wanted this lightly defended, where it's not really about, how tough of a tank you have. It's more about, hey, you're going to be running a level inside this thing to do it. And, I want the bulk of the combat to be on the interior and not fighting the exterior defenses. I wanted to give it enough to be able to defend itself against, regular attacks, but I really, really did want it not to be pulverized before you get inside it. Or where you got to have like some crazy psycho machinery to be able to get into this thing. And some of these turrets right now, they're just human turrets. I might even put on the weaker alien turrets on this one, just so you don't need to have some kind of shielded crazy thing to get into the POI if you're enemies with the Skaar. But this one is also going to be designed so if you're not enemies with the Skaar, it's a place where you can go and, maybe with the AI stuff, whatever you can do with that in the game, buy and sell some stuff and things like that. Maybe find some various loot containers inside it, but that'll probably piss them off if you took the stuff out of it. So, I mean, there is that concept. So, and it's hard for me to think that way sometimes too, because I always look at it like, well, this thing's got to be defended from every angle and really, really tough and hard. And it's like, well, it depends. What do you want? What do you want the POI to be? Do you want it to be a level design like you're running through on foot, or do you want to be a shoot 'em up gallery with your SV or HVs or even CVs in some cases? So, yeah, this one I kind of want to be a level that you run through as a player on foot and go through it, and not have a big focus on taking out the turrets and stuff like that. And I'm not even on this one too. I don't know if I want to run a shield on it. I want you to be able to run through it and have fun, and that's the whole point of the game. Now, this could be a tough POI or it could be an easy POI, but the most important factor is that it's a fun POI, and that's really what I want it to be. It's just fun. Some of the POIs that I come across are just, they're so destructive, so evil and powerful that it's just like, that's, and if you get your ship blown up and you die 5, 6 times. Your fun factor is just, it's just like, man, I'm just gonna stop playing this game. This sucks. I'm pissed. It's just getting a little bit too annoying. So I'm trying to avoid that with some POIs. Now, obviously, other POIs could be really, really tough and be like this high-end late game thing that you're trying to take on, and that can be a lot of fun in itself too. But not, a lot of POIs, most of them, I don't want it to be psycho crazy, where it's just like there's a couple POIs. If I seen them in game and I was playing for real, I'd be like, I don't even want to mess with that thing. I'm just gonna avoid it. It's not worth it. By the time, whatever I get out of this POI loot-wise isn't worth the cost of me dying 6, 7 times and losing my ship trying to get it. It's just, I'm not going to get ahead in the end on it. And probably just stop playing. So, anyway, I will shut up today and hope you enjoyed this and hope you kind of understand some of the methods that I use to build a lot of things. And that is basic block frames. And I've done that with most of the elaborate stuff. And why I don't like building miners so much is I don't get to do that too much with a miner. Miners they got to be so precise set where the mining drills are and things that you almost get no fluctuation on, or very little fluctuation on what you're going to do with the miner if you want it to work good. And therefore, that's probably my least favorite thing in the game to build is miners. It's been that way. I mean, it was fun early on building the first couple, but I think I built like 10 miners now, and they're all almost the same thing. Every time I try to fluctuate from design, it fails. So I have to go back to the same designs, except for in this case, which is just using a different kind of mining drill, which allowed you to do something different, which is kind of fun and refreshing. But all the other miners, including now the SV miners, they work very similar to that of a HV miner, and I'm realizing that you're not going to get a lot of fluctuation on them. If you want it to be a really, really good miner, you need your mining drills positioned in certain ways. Like this one can fit through the tunnels it makes. The TIE Fighter one over here needs to be tested with that, because I do worry that maybe probably the hole that it drills, unless you really bore it out bigger, that you're going to have trouble fitting this through it, because all this area goes past where the farthest mining drills are on the side. With this test concept over here, it's only going past that by 1 block, which is usually not too bad. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how all these work. Anyway, you all have yourself a good day, and I will see you later.